Are we going?
We're going.
Mark, you said something to Andrew.
He did.
I did. I sent him a poop emoji.
Well,
Did that stink?
It wasn't too bad.
Don't you think it'd be so cool if one day, and this is going to happen, where like when you send emojis, there's like a scratch and sniff, but you don't have to scratch your phone. It's just like your phone has this emitter where you can smell the emoji. So you send a cucumber or a poop or an eggplant, you can sniff it.
Or like a starfish?
That'd be fucking, yeah.
Put your tongue right in there.
You have the option to like,
It's
be like, you
interactive.
want to smell a starfish or a starfish? Right?
If you put your tongue on the phone, it like warms up. Possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that we lost all of our viewers,
That's what we love to do at the beginning of these shows.
all 6 or 7 of them, you guys know that we talk a lot on the show about personal development and, I don't know, just ways of trying to advance yourself, try to be better than you were yesterday in lifting and in life and in exercise of any kind. Andrew and Nsima love to beat people up. They're trying to become more efficient at killing people. I don't know why they're both so angry, but it's something they're dedicating themselves to. They're spending an awful lot of time trying to hurt people and trying to get themselves to not get hurt.
Because hurt people.
That's right. But it's just a way to level up. You know, there's different ways to level up in this world, and I think you guys are. It doesn't matter if you're doing jiu-jitsu or if you're doing running or if you're doing lifting. It's just that jiu-jitsu happens to be. It can be applied to like a fight, but life is kind of a fight, and life is you need a lot of problem-solving skills in life. And the same thing happens in the weight room when you're trying to learn about hypertrophy. You're trying to learn about gaining strength. You're trying to learn about losing body fat. These are all skill sets that you got to learn. And there's many traits and skill sets that take a long time to acquire. It's not like you just hear someone say something and then you pull a David Goggins and you say, Roger that, and you just go and do it. You can do that, and that can happen. But usually someone's got to tell you like 16 times that you probably don't need to eat nearly the amount of food that you're eating right now for you to start to implement that into your life and for you to start to lose weight.
Yeah. I am very curious. What this clip's about to be about, because I feel like
Well, this is from Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson, you know, I think shares a lot of information that is just of this realm of self-improvement. You know, he's got the 12 Rules book that is just massively famous, one of the most popular books of the last probably, I don't know, 20, 30 years, like a really, really popular book.
Yeah.
And I think he has a lot of great information out there about how someone can develop into being better than they were yesterday. And so I found this clip to be helpful. Andrew, can you hit it up? Let's see what you think about it, Nsima.
Arm yourself with words. Be precise in your language. Right? Say what you mean. Read great men and great women. Make yourself literate. Get your tongue in order. Get it under your own control. Get rid of the ums and the likes and the you knows and the pauses. And get rid of everything you say that you only say to impress other people. And just see if you can say what you believe to be true. That's an adventure. Arm yourself.
Why did this speak to you so much?
Well, first of all, he said read, and I don't read. So,
But you listen to content.
I do.
You listen
I
to
do.
books.
I do, and I do consume, and I read more than I give myself credit for. I don't really crack open books that often. However, I have made a change recently, and instead of bringing my phone into the bathroom, I'm reading books while I'm taking a shit. And you guys know how much shit,
Lots of shitting.
is flying out of my body all the time. So. I'm becoming a consumer of books.
You're getting like an hour or two of reading a day that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good stuff.
So yeah, I'm reading a bunch of stuff now. But anyway, it caught my attention because I'm like thinking like, there's other ways to learn stuff than to just read. But I do agree there's a lot of power in reading. There's a lot of empowerment in reading. And just kind of following along more with what he said, was to get your tongue in order, Nsima. We do not know where that tongue has been. You dirty bastard.
I don't brush my teeth every day just because I like to
keep the flavor
I
on
like
there.
flavors.
Flavor saver mustache.
Yes.
There's also been like a weird conspiracy theory around brushing your teeth that I've been seeing
It's
swirling.
a scam.
Yeah. And then when your gums get all swollen and red and bloody, that's it's detoxing.
I've never had a cavity my entire
Yeah,
life.
Dr. Colgate, he's over there making so much
So
money.
much
He's
money.
fucking counting his paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's poisoning us.
Oop,
Smells good, right?
Yeah, smells awesome.
there you go.
I do brush my teeth every day, guys. Just
How many times have you been to the dentist?
it's been years.
Yeah.
But
No,
each
I'm
time
not.
I've gone to
I'm
the
not talking
dentist-
shit. I'm actually just like, this is a very good compliment.
Yeah.
I've been to the dentist a fuck ton of times, and my teeth are all wrecked.
Oh man.
Anyway,
I love the clip because I think it's important for people just not go around being stupid. Learn, try to advance yourself, try to start to understand concepts. And if there's concepts that you don't understand, it's totally and completely fine to say that you don't understand something. A lot of times when my son Jake asks me stuff, I'm like, try not to dad this, try not to dad this, try not to dad this. It's very common for a lot of people to just start to spit out a bunch of information, but you're not actually really answering the question, for one. And two, you may not even know that much about what it is you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've found myself to do that before. I'm trying to get better at it. The other thing that he said was to try to get rid of the ands and the ums and the likes. And those of you that have been listening for a long time, I'm sure you picked up on whatever bullshit that Andrew does or Nsima does or that I do. And there we go. There's an And we're not always aware of these things. They're not easy to just completely get rid of, but why not practice it? And why not practice getting better at everything best you can?
yeah, I've been practicing and trying, but it's very difficult. And I see comments about how people are just saying these guys say like and all the time, or like this, like that. I promise if you record yourself speaking into a microphone for several hours each day, you'll start picking up things that you do that you don't even notice that you do right now. So it is difficult. But what stuck out to me the most about this clip was when he was talking about get rid of everything you say that's meant to impress other people. I thought was gigantic, because there's a lot of people like faking the funk, right? They're talking a big game, but they're not really doing much. You see this the most on Instagram, whether it be somebody getting a hardcore killer workout at 4 a.m. or whatever it may be, and then they, take a picture of their alarm clock and then they go right back to sleep. It's like they're doing a lot of stuff for other people. But if everyone did speak about what they truly believed in, one, people would be more transparent. They wouldn't be a bunch of bullshitters. But they probably wouldn't say like much of anything, because they maybe just don't have a lot going on. So a lot of the stuff they're fabricating and making up as they go to appear to be something that they're not, or at least maybe something that they're not yet. So that's what I picked up the most out of it, because like I said, I mean, I grew up like around people that just like couldn't turn off the cool button. What I mean is like, see, like I said, like again, like if a chick came around, they would talk about how much money they made. Like, dude, you still live at home. Like, you don't make that much money. I know this for a fact. I always reference the poser that did an MMA class one time, but always referenced how they train MMA, when I know for damn sure that they only did it one time. What the fuck is an MMA class? So it's like, I don't know, like being a poser, I think is just such like a shitty thing to be. And you're just lying to try to impress other people instead of speaking what's actually true to you.
It can be difficult sometimes in having conversation with people to, on this podcast, we end up having opportunities to talk to people that are pretty intellectual. And a lot of times they're people that know a ton about a particular subject matter. So if somebody at just a casual family gathering brings up something about like nutrition or something along those lines, you're bringing a blowtorch to something that is like, it's completely unnecessary to have to utilize a blowtorch. Like all you need to do is maybe just encourage or just listen. A lot of times that's really what, especially if it's coming from a woman, I think. I don't know what women want, but I think they just want you to listen. They're frustrated. Your aunt, your sister, whoever is like, I just can't lose weight. That is not a message that they want you to start giving them a speech about intermittent fasting.
They want a spark, not a blowtorch.
Yeah, exactly. They want like a little spark, and you could say, hey, there's a couple people you could follow on Instagram that might be great for you to check out. Maybe you check out Nsima Peterson. She's a woman that does kind of a carnivore style diet. Maybe you would find that to be empowering. You ever looked at Dr. Gabrielle Lyons? She has great information online, and kind of leave it up to them. And then they might come back around to you at some point and say, hey, I checked out Gabrielle Lyons' information on Instagram. That blew my mind. And it actually would have been really helpful and beneficial, rather than you trying to get them bought in on your belief that you're trying to, just spit to them, because it does make you feel good that you have this knowledge and you feel like you have to share it.
Mm-hmm.
Over the past few years that we've been doing the pod, the really cool thing is that I think this for all of us, that we've all become more open because of the breadth of individuals that we've been able to talk to. Because we've talked to people who have, for example, Luisa Nicola comes on the podcast recently, and when she's talking about marijuana, she's like, when I work with my pro athletes, that's something that I say, no, don't do. But a few podcasts earlier, when we're talking to Joel Jameson, also a coach of many professional athletes, and he's the HRV god when it comes to having popularized that, you mentioned that, within the fitness marketplace. He's like, for some people, THC is actually super beneficial for their sleep, and for some people, it's not. I do think it's interesting, and I do, like, when I was listening to what Luisa was saying, I was thinking, maybe the answer is somewhere in the middle. And that's why I think it is so awesome, first off, what we're doing, because we're getting all this fucking information, and then we have to sift out what we believe to be true or closest to the right answer for each of us. But the cool thing is that when it comes to a lot of this stuff, there are so many different answers. There's so many different ways of applying, which is why I'm also pumped that we don't say this is the right way to handle things in terms of your running or your lifting or muscle gain. Because there are so many people that are within this that are like, this is the best way to gain muscle. This is the best way to improve your cardio. This is the best way for this. This is the best way for this. But as we've continued to learn, there's a lot of ways to go about it. And there's a weakness in pigeonholing yourself to one belief or what you believe is right. Because I know there wasn't much nuance in Jordan's clip.
It's short.
It's short. He did say what you believe, but I also know that Jordan Peterson is a guy who learns a ton. And he changes his opinion probably all the time about
changes
different
his
things.
beliefs.
Changes his beliefs.
That's a great thing to question. What are your beliefs? Why do you have them? Yeah. Do you have them because mom and dad have them? Do you believe in God and do you believe in being Catholic just because that's what you were born into? That's actually fine if that's what you want to believe in. And you're like, this has worked really well for my family, and I do believe in this, and it makes me feel good. But I think it's also good to walk through some questions about it and say, I wonder about some other religions. I wonder about Judaism. I wonder about these other religions I hear about sometimes, Christianity. I wonder what the difference is. I wonder where did these things come from? So it's just, I think I've said many times, I've made so many mistakes with the things I've said over the years, but probably one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was saying that I don't like science and that I don't like scientific stuff. But what I really am trying to illustrate or communicate about is sometimes I don't like studies. Sometimes I don't like scientific studies. But also sometimes I do. Sometimes they can be really effective. But everyone is a scientist, or I think everyone should conduct themselves like a scientist. Here's my beliefs. And Nsima, what do you think about these beliefs? This is what I believe helps make someone big and strong. You and I go back and forth. You're big and strong. We start to have a conversation about it, and I go, wow, he just brought up 3 things that I was not even considering before. Oh, man, okay, so I'm going to go and I got to give him credit. He mentioned 3 things that were really good.
But if you're research-based, a lot of those guys and women, and I think this is part of the reason why, I mean, even I've taken a different stance when it comes to research, because when you apply certain things and you see that it works really well, but it's different from what the research says is ideal, what does that speak to as far as being science-based? Are you just going to follow the research, or are you going to follow what's practically working?
Yeah, what's practical, what's working, what's your definition of something working? I've tried that diet before, it doesn't work. Usually the word diet implies that you're trying to, a lot of times you're trying to lose weight. You're trying to get a desired, let's just say you're trying to get a desired result, lose or gain weight. And if you followed the diet, then most likely it's going to have a result where you could say, yeah, it kind of worked for me. Maybe it wasn't super powerful or whatever, but again, I think continuing to take your beliefs and see if they stand up to criticism and conjecture. And sometimes when we're spitting out words here on the podcast, it's really nice to actually look some words up. Conjecture is a word I had to look up, and it's a word that I have to look up a bunch still, because I'm like, what does that actually mean? You know, or when someone says beliefs, I have to look it up. And then you might find yourself going down a rabbit hole. Like, where did the word belief come from? But learning these things can give you an advantage in your communication, to where not only can you speak to people more clearly and explain things better to them, when they come out of your mouth for the second, third, fourth, seventh iteration that you're laying out, you will now become a material expert. And people will start to say, wow, that's wild, man. I did not know Andrew knew that much about podcast stuff. I didn't know he knew that much about cameras and photography. Like, holy shit. But why do you know so much about it? A, you're interested in it. B, you've talked about it a lot over the years. C, you have tons of actual experience with it. D, you sought out other people that have knowledge. You had beliefs in the beginning. You took some of those beliefs, you threw them up against the wall. You kind of saw what stuck. I mean, you're like, okay, those are a couple beliefs that are pretty good. There could be a couple beliefs that you had in the very beginning that have stood the test of time. You're like, I always knew, what is it, the Canon or whatever? That's
definitely not. No, it's Fuji.
Oh, Fuji. Yeah. You're obsessed with Fuji, and you think it's supremely better than all the other ones, and that's kind of the sword that you're going to die on, right? But, you know, some of these things sometimes are also like just playful. But like, I've always liked the West Side method, you know, and I have found it to be super beneficial for me. Are there other ways of getting strong? Of course there are. Am I going to go out and discourage everybody and say, no, this is my belief. You have to do it this way. This is the way you have to do it. What if I'm doing West Side for a while and Chad Wesley Smith tells me something different? I try something different and I have a result that is twice as good, that works twice as fast as the stuff from West Side. Well, maybe I start to adopt some of his beliefs. And beliefs, I think the main thing here is that beliefs are temporary. Everything in life is temporary. Unfortunately, everything is temporary. Yourself, your person that you love and care about, your family dog, everything.
Don't say that.
I know, it sucks, right? Everything is temporary. Daisy's temporary. You know, there'll be a day where like that, she's not around anymore. It's going to make the whole family sad. But that's just reality. And I think that we should fucking kill our beliefs. Like, that should be our goal, to kill our beliefs. And if you keep trying to kill your beliefs, but they keep standing up, you're going to be an expert in something. As you're sharing information with people, it continues to stand up to criticism and conjecture over and over and over and over again. It's standing the test of time. It's something that's lasting through not just you, not just the thoughts that you have on it, but the thoughts that other people have on it.
Power Project family, how's it going? You guys probably have watched a lot of Mark's lifting videos and some of my lifting videos, and you've probably noticed that our shorts never go past our knees.
Nope.
There's a reason for that. y'all got to show those quads off, baby. And the shorts that we're always wearing are from a company called Viori. That's spelled Vuori. But Viori has amazing clothes for the gym that we wear, but also outside the gym. So you can wear them to dinner parties, dates, gatherings, all that good stuff. But all their clothes fit well, fit amazing. This is a shirt from Viori, by the way. Look at that shoulder. It's a just look at this. Look at it fits so well for people in fitness. And even if you're not, just check them out. Andrew, how did they get it?
Yeah, clothes that look good inside and outside of the gym and work just as well inside and outside of the gym. Head over to viori.com/power project. That's VUORI.com/power project to receive 20% off your first order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
How many times have we brought certain people onto the podcast and kind of realized, or maybe their views ended up being more nuanced than what you typically see them talk about when it comes to posting on social media.
Yeah,
when you see them,
times.
When you see them talk about it, usually when they talk about it, it's very exact. But then when we start to talk about it, we start to question, how about this? How about this? Oh, maybe in this situation that can be useful. Maybe in this situation that dietary protocol can be useful. It
depends.
And that's what a lot of this shit's coming down to. I'm actually curious with both of you guys, over the years of doing this more and more and more, how has your approach to, I guess, learning new things or intaking new information about whether it's exercise, nutrition, or whatever, how has it changed? Because I have an inclination of what you're going to say, but I still, I see a lot of comments from individuals saying, oh, but this is tried and true. This is something this has worked for a long time. Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Why are you doing this new fad thing? That's one thing I see quite a bit. But how have you guys changed? Do you think you have changed? Do you think you've always been open?
I've definitely have, when I was younger, I thought that I knew more. I think I had to be that way for me.
Yes.
I thought I knew more than I did, and that was to protect me because I also went through a period of time where I thought I was dumb. So then I had to be like, I got this information and I'm fucking smart and I'm going to share it with people and I'm going to teach people how to get strong. I'm going to become the people's coach. And I'm going to feel smart. I'm going to feel, I'm going to work on feeling good about myself with the knowledge that I have rather than the opposite of that. So I have been open-minded, though, because of the environment that I grew up in. My parents were super supportive and just very understanding. And I remember my mom would come to my room a lot at night, and I don't remember the age that I was, but probably like 11, 12, just kind of before you get to be like a weird teenager and don't want your parents around you anymore. And she would just tell me, you can always come to me, with anything that you got, anything that you need to share with me. So they were always so open that, she would say, and she would make it crazy. She'd I don't know, you woke up and your foot is chopped off or something. You make it funny so that the kid can kind of I don't know, think about the conversation or remember the conversation.
Yeah.
And, yeah, both my parents were reasonable. I remember my brother Mike, he would really push that whole thing. He'd push their rules a lot. And, my dad would go to church on Sunday and, they're like, oh, my son, Steven, he had a great time with your son last night, at the Kiss concert. And my dad's like, the Kiss concert,
devil music.
Yeah, my dad's like, what are you talking about?
They were at study group,
and no, Mike was in bed by 9:30. And but my dad, before he went and raged about that and said, yeah, this is devil music and all that kind of stuff, he had a conversation with my mom. He's like, Mike snuck out of the house last night. There was no conversation. He just left the house. We had no idea where he was. He was out until 2 or 3, and he came back, and this is how he did it, because my dad, I think, was figuring some of that out. And but my dad also did a little research on it. I don't think he knew what group or what band. I don't remember what band it was. I just made that up that it was Kiss. But anyway, the point is my dad like did a little research before he brought it up to my mom, because my mom's super religious, and he wanted to make sure that she didn't like explode and want him to explode on Mike. And so my dad just went to Mike and he said, "You're grounded. You're grounded for a couple of weeks because I don't want you sneaking out of the house. And on top of that, please just come to us if you want to go to a concert, because there's nothing wrong with you wanting to go to a concert. You're 16 years old. I expect that you might want to do that." But Mike also liked towing the line on that stuff. He probably got like a rush from it or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, my parents were always open. And so even though they had their religious beliefs, they weren't like, "You can't do this. You can't." We were allowed to watch whatever we wanted to watch. We were allowed to listen to whatever we wanted to listen to. Even though other people in our church were like, "Metallica, you can't listen to that. Like, that's devil worship," or any of this metal music or rock music or whatever. And I remember my dad teaching me and telling me, he's like, "It's the same old shit, Mark." He's like, "I had long hair." He's like, "Your grandfather went crazy that I had long hair."
Your dad had long hair?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like, "I had like a mustache or whatever." And because my grandfather was like in the military, and
yeah.
so all these beliefs, all these things that were, anchored to from older generations, my dad just like lost those because he didn't feel that they didn't really stand up. They didn't stand the test of time. So he thought they were not as important. So I was brought up to be, I think, at least a little bit open-minded. How about you, Andrew?
That's great. Just real quick on that, it makes me feel good because we had nowhere near the same situation of like my daughter going to a concert without us knowing, but like something happened and she didn't tell us, and we're like, "Why didn't you say anything?" It's like, "Well, I didn't want you to get mad or whatever." It's like, I actually wouldn't really care. Like, you can be open with us. Like, there's no big deal there. And then something else with what your dad said about like his dad in that thing. So we were actually watching the movie Grease, old ass movie. I don't know if you remember it, Nsima.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Grease.
Just making sure. Yeah. In that opening scene, it's a cartoon of a teenager in his messy ass room and his like messy ass hair. And I was like, "Babe, how funny is it that like kids have always been kids?" She's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "This teenager, I don't even know when the movie was made." I'm like, "But look at this teenager in the 70s. I was like, he's the exact same thing as what we got going on today. And so I was just like, stuff repeats itself all the time.
Absolutely.
But in regards to learning, I call it a benefit now, but in the moment, maybe not so much. But I didn't really have much of a base to like have a belief on. So like if you bring someone in, or if we brought someone in like Stan Efferding, I'm going to think like, "Oh dude, I think the vertical diet is probably going to be the best diet for me." And then it's like, okay, it was fine, right? But like I had to experiment with a lot of the people that we had, coming in with their information. So I think
also what I've noticed from you previously, and it's not there as much anymore, is you didn't have that much confidence in yourself, and you would say like, "Well, I don't really know anything about that," when you know just as much as us. A lot of times on a lot of stuff.
I mean, it's a byproduct of being on this podcast for so many years. It's like if somebody does say something like Louisa had mentioned myostatin, I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I've been researching that shit for years trying to figure out how to get rid of mine." And because she's like, "Have you guys heard?" And like, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've read a lot about it.
Exactly.
So it's, again, having the confidence to say that because I have read about it. And so I wouldn't have done that if I wasn't for this podcast. But yeah, taking in the information, I had to experiment with it because I just didn't really have much to go off of. When I first started training here, what was I doing? I was powerlifting. Prior to that, I was just doing like push-pull bro sets and stuff. Came here, experienced powerlifting. I quickly learned that I wasn't that good at it because I wasn't very strong, but given the time, wasn't long enough to really understand if I was strong or not. But I did that. And then, eventually we started doing more like Metcon stuff. And I was like, wow, I'm actually kind of okay at doing this stuff. Then we started doing bodybuilding stuff. And I'm like, I really enjoy this. Like, so I just kind of started getting molded. So like every time a piece of information came that I liked, it kind of was like a layer on this like statue of like beliefs, if we want to call it that. And then more and more stuff would get added on, like Doug Brignoli. And like, I still like that, but I do a lot of stuff that he wouldn't recommend I do, like pushing and pulling the sled, doing GOTA stuff. He would be like, "Don't waste your time on any of that." But it's like, no, I mean, I'm not wasting my time. I'm going to do it because it helps improve my body and helps improve everything. So again, add another stack of beliefs on that. But then you start to question those beliefs, like Mark said, and it's like, okay, well, maybe there's nothing wrong with a bench press after all. Dude. You know, like maybe I can get under a bar every now and again just to feel that stimulus on the body to help add the what's it, the stuff on in your bones,
bone density. Yeah.
There you go. Sorry,
Calcium,
bone density. Yeah, stuff like that. It's like that makes sense in my head. I'm not going to go research a paper. I think I'm just going to go do it and then see how I feel. I'm not going to go back to the days of like, oh, I'm going to go, try to squat 3 plates. Like I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. I'm not going to do that. But that's because, again, I've had to experiment with a little bit of everything to build myself up.
Look at the stuff that we've kind of, discovered, not like us personally discovered. Mm-hmm. Look at the things we've bumped into, intermittent fasting, cold therapy, the sauna, heat shock proteins, cold shock proteins. There's been so many things, right? And there's going to be blowback, right? It's going to go back the other way. The answer lies in the middle. And nobody wants to really hear that the answer lies in the middle, but the answer, it's kind of always in the middle.
What team are you on?
You got to pick a side, Mark.
Are you carnivore? Are you lifting, to failure? Or are you power lifter? Like what thing? Yeah, what
fence sitting pussy man?
That's where I'm at in my life. I'm apparently starting to look like a woman, and shit is falling apart for me. But I'm just trying to, I don't know, I'm trying to hang on over here, but it ain't working by a thread.
Andrew, could you play that clip one more time?
We have to find it.
You have to find it because there's something I really want to hear. Because
okay, let me pull it. You're talking about the
Jordan clip.
I just want to add
Jordan clip.
I want to add something. Your beliefs, like your belief in yourself, will change every single thing about your entire life. The more that you can believe in yourself and the stronger that your belief is in yourself of the things that you enjoy doing, it's going to be probably the most empowering thing that you'll ever explore. To get to that spot, you have to continually tweak stuff, and you have to continually kind of put stuff out there in the world to see if it stands up to things. So for me, like making a product, you make a product and you sell it online. There's like a lot of sharks in the water, right? There's first of all, there's competition. Secondly, there's customers. There's just like what people think, what people say. Oh my God, look at this fucking stupid rubber band that you wrap around your elbows. And there's tons of people that enjoy it. There's way more people that enjoy it than make a negative comment about it. But my beliefs were strong enough to put a product out there and to take the heat for it. And then you have people sometimes that will come up and be like, I thought of something similar. A couple years before you got that out, I should, and you're like, come on, dude, what are you talking about? But a lot of times people don't have the belief in themselves to put that thing out there. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people don't have that belief to, be in class, like at a jiu-jitsu class or a seminar and say, hey, you know what, actually at our school, we do this. And what do you think of that? Because they're scared of what could happen. But if you put your beliefs out there, the instructor might say, oh my God, fuck, dude, I think, hey, do you guys think he has something here? And a whole class of 20 people, 30 people are like, damn it, I think he does have something, but that's an area that we weren't thinking of. It's an area where we were weak, and now you acquired more knowledge. And with more knowledge, you continue to believe in yourself more and more and more. I think it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, play that clip again.
Let me play this clip. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is.
Man, I love you guys, by the way. Like, I fucking love you guys because this, like,
oh man, you took a bunch of kratom.
I didn't actually. This is shroomless, not high, non-kratom Nsima talking.
That's like lovely.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. Lying. Wait till Sam comes back. She's gonna kick your ass.
God, I've been sexless. I can't wait.
Oh, that's what's going on here.
I'm holding in all this nuts.
Dude, this no-fap January has created loving Nsima.
Giant load all
everywhere. It's going to hit the ceiling for sure.
Play the fucking clip.
Arm yourself with words. Be precise in your language. Right? Say what you mean. Read great men and great women. Make yourself literate. Get your tongue in order. Get it under your own control. Get rid of the ums and the likes and the you knows and the pauses. And get rid of everything you say that you only say to impress other people. And just see if you can say what you believe to be true. That's an adventure.
All right, positive. Yeah. So one thing that, like, you know, he mentioned reading, which implies learning. And one thing that I think ends up happening is people can read and learn a lot of things, but when they don't actually go out and apply. And I think that's one thing that has separated us in terms of how we do things, is because we are learning, we're reading, we're talking to a lot of people with different ideas, but then we take those things and we apply. And we do get to see what is sticking for us. Mm-hmm. And there's some things that maybe it didn't stick for us, but it sticks for other people. But I think one aspect of that is personally gives me confidence in many of the things that I'm doing is because I have applied and I have seen a positive difference. That positive difference seen will spit in the face of any study that I see somebody try to pull up on Instagram that goes against what I have been applying, because I've been applying it rigorously and I've seen positive results. And within this, it's like there are so many people that put up studies and say, this study came out and said this study came out and said this. And although, again, I can understand that it's good to understand that, they think the weakness lies in the fact that, well, you haven't applied because a paper said this. You're dictating your progression by a paper, you know? And that's one thing I think that will benefit a lot of people, because as you're learning, that's where people get stuck in like the self-development rabbit hole, where they're buying the new self-development book, they're buying this new self-development book, when they all kind of say the same things, but when you're not applying it, you feel that you need more, right? Or you're going from program to program to program, but you haven't given yourself time to like get the benefits of doing something for a bit before switching, right? So one of the big differences, and I think I go into all of this because I think when I started the podcast or started coming on the podcast with you guys, there was a point that I felt really comfortable at my knowledge level. And it's not like I thought I knew it all or thought I knew a lot, but I was just like, I'm comfortable being able to go back and forth with anybody about anything.
Yeah,
right?
I've read that. I read that before.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And although I still think like even at that point, that was good. At this point in my mind, I'm perfectly okay with saying like, I don't know shit. That's literally how I go about things. I don't know shit. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that, on this or that? I'm open to hearing somebody's thought process and applying part of what they're saying to seeing if it actually sticks. Because even though I may know some shit, I think it's better to go in the mindset of I don't know shit, but I'm down to apply things and see what actually sticks, rather than relying on other people and other people's research and other people's papers to say whether I should do something or not. Kador, when he came on the podcast, that was one thing that I loved about him, because he's someone who was doing insane things with insane results.
We'll have him on again.
We'll have him on again. And it spits in the face of what a lot of people tell people not to do. And also, like, one thing, again, it gives me confidence in applying is the fact that I will see people with their studies and the things that they say is ideal and this and that about stretching or anything else. And I will look at them and I'll just be like, but even though you're saying this, I would not want to move like you. You are stiff.
You can't be mobile and be big at the same time. You can't do bodybuilding, like bodybuilding and jiu-jitsu. You can't do them, right?
Oh man, that's a funny one. But I think we have a lot of people that are doing bodybuilding and jiu-jitsu that it's like it's a lot of people are applying and it's working well.
Right.
But there are people who'd be like, oh, that's not ideal. That's not optimal. So from everything that we've continued to learn, I think the big thing is that we apply. We don't really care about what somebody thinks in terms of like what the research says or what's been tried and true or what's been proven, because there could be something that's super beneficial on the other side of actually doing. Because there's so many people that are talking a lot, but not many people are actually applying and doing and seeing what actually is going to work for themselves and maybe, just maybe for other people.
Look at, having Stephen Pressfield around, like it's, what an amazing guy, right? What a great writer. It's easy to kind of get caught up in the fact that he's his writing is amazing. His books are amazing. He's written scripts that have turned into movies and so forth.
Yeah.
But he's a doer. He's a big time doer, and that's all his books are about. Pretty much is that getting out there and doing the thing, writing. There's no such thing as writer's block. People are like, wait, no. I have tons of it. I get writer's block all the time. Like, what do you, no, like, don't take that away from me. That's my, I get stuck on stuff. And, he's like, one of the things I asked him at the end of the show, I'm like, have you ever found that something really stupid ends up, working, like almost thinking like the opposite, if we're thinking about like stuff for this show or whatever. And if we just think of like opposite ideas, let's talk to people that have been maybe in the past have been super lazy and they didn't commit themselves to running or these disciplines or whatever. That's actually a good idea, right? It's like a pretty good idea. So if you start with opposites, or you start with a kind of a dumbish belief or belief that's opposite of what you currently believe. Let's say that you think that fat people are lazy.
Oof.
What if you think about, well, maybe they're not lazy. Maybe they're actually really motivated in a lot of other areas of their life. They just have a hard time applying it to that one spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're to think, you start to walk yourself through and you're like, if I'm being honest, am I stuck and lazy in a lot of areas of my life, but I'm just not wearing it on my physical being so other people don't have to see it, so I don't have to be embarrassed and be exposed by that every day? Fuck yeah, I got a lot of shortcomings. Andy will rattle them off to you guys. She'll whip out like a scroll, We all do. Everybody does. And so I think, continuing to challenge these beliefs and to continue to, push them out there in front of other people and have the confidence to be able to do that, have the confidence to be able to fail fast, and also have the confidence to be able to know that your beliefs are temporary. Jordan Peterson, he mentioned something there at the end where he talked about how you're basically trying to find new beliefs, but he also mentioned something in there where he made it kind of seem temporary. That they're not absolutes, right? We don't speak in absolutes. I've mentioned this before. You may want to try to end a lot of your sentences with a question mark rather than a period, because then, hey, Nsima, the best way to get strong is to do a 5. Hey, Nsima, the best way to get strong is to do a 5x5. Is better than me saying, hey, Nsima, the best way to get strong is to do a 5x5. And you might be like, that's odd. Like, I think, Mark, maybe you would want to mix it up a little bit rather than just doing 5 sets of 5 like all the time or perpetuity. What are we talking about here? Right?
Yeah. And that's why what we do. So like, I love that we get to do what we do, because we get to ask questions and go back and forth and figure out like where some of the best like benefit lies. But, when you were talking about, I think kind of like, when we get to apply a lot of things, right? And we get to kind of see what sticks. And one thing that I find so funny is like, for example, nasal breathing. We've talked about that so much. We've applied it for a long time, and we've seen how beneficial it could be for sleep, how beneficial it could be of developing that skill for exercise and your overall health. Just to stop breathing like that through your mouth while you're sleeping or during the day. But I do again find it interesting when we do talk to certain people where it's like we've applied it. We have seen what it's like on the other side of taking the time to start focusing on doing things through here, breathing through here during sleep, maybe through exercise during the day, how much more beneficial it can be. We know what that feels like because we've taken the time to apply it. But when we have talked to some people who you can tell they haven't taken the time to maybe learn or see about it or maybe even apply it, some people have been like, oh, that makes no difference. And in my head, sometimes I'm like, but I can understand you're saying it makes no difference, but have you given it an actual try?
It's probably frustrating that it's difficult.
Exactly. There are so many things that like, I think one thing that we have gotten good at, right, is we've gotten good at not shutting something down just because it hasn't fallen into what we do or our personal belief systems.
Nasal breathing was so hard in the beginning. It felt so difficult. And I've heard people talk about people doing nasal breathing for marathons. I was like, that's completely absurd. Who would ever do that? But for most people, not when you're running at like world record, numbers, but for a lot of people, nasal breathing would be super ideal for half marathons and for marathons. Over a period of time, you got to work your way into it. It's going to take a while. I ran 16 miles yesterday, and the majority of it was nasal breathing.
Nice.
And a huge part of that was just so I can keep calming myself down. It's almost like if I look at my phone will tell me, you're doing 13-minute miles or whatever. Without really looking at my phone, I kind of know without looking at it that I'm at like a 13-minute mile pace because I can breathe really well. If I go down to about 11 minutes and I'm trying to do that for an extended period of time, it's going to be tough to maintain that nasal breathing. It's going to be tough to keep my heart rate in the zone that I want to keep it in. So these things that I thought I was like, I don't even know if I believe that someone could do something like that. That sounds too intense. Sounds too crazy. But I mean, there's a lot of beliefs that I'm changing. I went to run some hills yesterday, and there's not a lot in Davis. It's very flat. We talked about this off air a little bit. But there are hills. You can find some. I found, some overpasses, and they're not epic hills. I wish they were a little bigger for training purposes, but I found some, and I ran over this overpass, and then I ran back, and I ran over the overpass, and I ran back. I did like 4 sets of that. And I'm like, I'm going to go to this other area because I know there's a hill there too. I started running some of that, and as I'm running it, I got like goosebumps from head to toe. And I'm like, this is so fucking cool. You know what? Maybe I'm not the typical runner, but I'm like, I think I have a fucking distinct advantage right here.
Yeah.
I'm like, my calves and hamstrings feel strong. I feel really good right now. And that 13-minute mile pace that I was running turned into an 11-minute mile pace because when I see a hill, I kind of take it as a challenge. And I also have strength and power that's been developed over a long period of time from powerlifting. And I can like cultivate that when the hills hit. Whereas on the flat surface, I'm going to start to run too fast, quote unquote, too fast. And it's going to have a little bit more wear and tear on my body because of like body weight and stuff like that. But I've been able to, the reason why I got the goosebumps was I was like, this needs to be reinterpreted. Like I can fucking do this shit. I'm going to be really good at this. It's going to take me time, but I can get really good at this. I don't have any question that there'll be a time where I'm doing a marathon where I'm at like a 10-minute mile pace for the whole thing. I don't know how long that's going to take. Might take 2 years, might take 5 more years. I don't know. But I know that I'm going to be able to get there. I can feel it. And I wasn't close enough to be able to feel that or know that until yesterday when I was on this run. And it was really empowering. But how do I know any of this stuff unless I go out there and challenge my beliefs? You're not a runner. Well, I don't know. Let me see. Let me throw some punches and see if one lands. Maybe I'll end up with a knockout. How do I know unless I'm trying?
That's why I said be precise with your language, and specifically be precise with your language to yourself. We always talk about that shit, but like, don't say, oh, I'm not this, or I'm just bad at this. If you think you're bad at something currently, that's cool. You might just be bad.
I've always been a little clumsy. I've always been kind of unathletic. I've always been tight. I've always been, hey, never mind all that for right now. That's all negative shit. Has nothing to do with nothing. You're going to be able to do this hold. You're going to be able to perform this move. It's just going to take you some time. There's probably not ever been one person that's come through a jiu-jitsu class who's been like, yo, got it. Nope. It all looks like shit from everybody.
Yeah.
I've had people over the years tell me, oh, dude, you'd be so good in strongman. Like, no, I wouldn't. I don't know anything about strongman. I'd be horrible. There's some similarities there, but do you know how much technique and what a skill set it is to do stone, load the stones and to lap the stones and all those things? Now I can learn it, and there's no reason for me to be negative once I'm trying to acquire that skill set. But I'm not just going to randomly be good at it just because I dabbled in something that's kind of close to it.
Yeah.
I might have I might have a leg up on the next person, just like someone who wrestled might have a leg up on someone coming into jiu-jitsu. But it doesn't mean you're going to be great at jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely not.
No, it's funny. I was actually going back and watching some of your early jiu-jitsu footage, and yeah, I mean, at white belt, right? So like, this is when you were filming a lot of stuff back then, and it's so funny because I was explaining that this morning after you left, you know, saying like, I'm watching, I can see like some mistakes he was making, and it's really easy, and I don't want to act like I'm a expert at it, but when you're watching somebody else,
probably kind of makes you feel good.
So what I was trying to explain,
because of his physical prowess, right?
What I was trying to explain was like, oh, he looked human. Like, we're joking, right? Because like Nsima comes in and he's fantastic at jiu-jitsu. Everybody knows this. But I was like, it was really cool to see that he was human back when he was a white belt. Joe was saying that you guys were talking back and forth, and how you explained that when you were at blue belt, you were making the same mistakes as him.
Yeah.
And that gave him like so much like motivation to keep going even harder, because he's like, oh, okay, well, you know, again, if Nsima's making these mistakes and I'm making these mistakes, then maybe I'm on the right path. But what I wanted to go back to was, I remember Jason Kalipa was in the gym, and I don't remember what you were doing at the time. Maybe you were leaning out, whatever it was, but he was like, oh man, Mark, I think you should do a marathon. And you're like, nah, I don't know. And you're like, oh, at least a half marathon. And you're like, he's invited me to run many times. Yeah. And so it's just so cool to go from that to putting in the work, you know, throwing those shots. And now to where it's like, wow, you might have some really like really, really good times. I ran 16 miles yesterday and 11 miles this morning. I was only supposed to run for 30 minutes, but I was like, I feel fucking awesome. I'm going to keep going. Jesus.
Wait, you're only supposed to run for 30 minutes and you ended up running 11 miles?
How long did that take? Do you remember?
Yesterday it was like 3.5 hours, and today was like 2 something.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude, good for you, man.
But I just, as I was running, I was like, I might as well like keep going. Because I do feel really good. I don't feel like I'm jeopardizing anything, and I'm asking myself about the next day. I'm like, honestly, tomorrow, is this going to actually fuck you up? Because if it is, you need to fucking stop. And I was like, nah, I don't think so. I think I know my body pretty good. I feel pretty good. And then I was like, all right, well, you got to make a commitment that you will stop if something hurts or something's off. Because that's how you really hurt yourself, is you have a little injury or a little something happens, and then you just, you grit it out. But yeah, I did what I did, and I was like, when I got to like mile 5, I was like, I should just kind of keep cruising, because it would be cool to do a marathon, over the course of 2 days. And so I finished the run last night at 7:30 p.m. because I ran later in the day. And then I started the run today at like 8 a.m. or something like that. So so the amount of time that went by, is all done in like a 24-hour period, but also maybe even like a 16-hour period or something like that. So at some point, that'll all be smashed together, and I'll do it all in one day.
Yeah, I'm curious what you guys think about this. This is something that I guess I do believe in when it comes to beliefs. For me with photography, when I was a kid and I'd hold the camera and I'd take a picture, I would get all tingly inside, because I'm like, I can't wait to see what this looks like. And I don't care who you are, if you're not a photographer, when you take that roll and you get it developed and then you get to see the pictures later, it's always freaking exciting when you see the images that you captured. Didn't know what that was, but it just felt really cool to take pictures. And then, fast forward to high school and we're like filming skate videos. I loved putting those together. That was like my favorite thing ever. Fast forward a little bit more, and it's like now I'm filming rap videos and, having fun with that. And so what happened was just like photography and videography just kept coming back around. And every time it kept coming back around, I loved it more and more. So I don't know if it's like the universe putting it in front of me, but it's like it became undeniable and I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I had to keep pursuing it. I feel like with whether it be running, jiu-jitsu, like jiu-jitsu is another one. Like you're telling me about it almost every day. We have guest after guest telling like the benefits of jiu-jitsu. Me having my son and me wanting him to do jiu-jitsu. And then another one of our close friends, Charlie Zamora, opens up his gym to me to do jiu-jitsu. And it's like, okay, I can no longer ignore this. I'm going to have to do this. And now I love it, right? So it's like, it seems like a lot of these things, nasal breathing, right? We talked to Oxygen Advantage, forgetting his name, Patrick McEwen, James Nestor, and a bunch of other people that weren't specifically going to talk about that. We're not trying to create an echo chamber, but it kept coming up. And it's like, okay, well, I can't deny this anymore. And then we try it, and then now it just kind of becomes a part of our belief system. So I think that like, it kind of keeps coming around to where you can't deny it, but it keeps working. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like when stuff keeps coming back around where like, okay, I think I'm going to have to take a look at this. And then you take a look at it and you're like, damn, all these people were right.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Stuff that you're interested in, you're going to hang out doing it long enough to where you're going to stay after practice at jiu-jitsu and someone's going to show you something new or different. And you're going to learn to kind of challenge those previous beliefs. The more interested you are in something, the more likely you are to hopefully the more likely you are to continue that process of being like scientific about it. You know, not just like following studies necessarily, but conducting your own studies all the time where you're putting things to the test and seeing if things stand the test of time, I think is really valuable. I mentioned this before. Sometimes exercises in the gym, like we know exercises in the gym are kind of garbage for us, but we keep going back to them for some reason, and you keep hurting yourself. Just don't do them anymore. Like, don't worry about like how to do it and stuff like that. If you've been training for a long time, 5+ years, and there's a couple exercises that every time you try them, you literally get hurt. You can look up more information on how to get better at them and things like that, or you can just chop them out. There's no way that they're that pivotal in your life that you absolutely have to learn them. Sometimes there is a skill set. There are things that you do need to learn, and on the opposite end of that, the things that work, that have worked for a long time, let's say there's a particular, some machines at the gym that you really like, but people are like, machines, you need free weights, and that's how you get big. That's how you slap on muscle. If they work and you feel like you're getting more jacked from it, I mean, it's ridiculous sometimes on the show. We have guests on the show and they're well-meaning people and they're super smart and they know a lot of great things, but Nsima is fucking huge. I'm not that bad myself. And we're trying to get this information from these people, and sometimes they're sharing stuff as if it's an absolute. And then we're able to kind of give them the skeptical hippo eyes. And respectfully, we just move on and start talking about the next thing. Dude, yeah. Right?
Oh, that's interesting that you think that. Anyways,
okay, so this is the thing. This is the thing where like sometimes with like Nsima, don't get dangerous with that shit, because there are some people who are like, well, I'm bigger than you. Like it's not that. That's not what we're saying. But it's like, for example, the breathing thing, right? I've applied it too much within jiu-jitsu, like sleep mouth tape. I've applied it too much and just seen how transformative it can be. And I've seen other people like my boy Josh Settlage. When Josh started nasal breathing years ago, right? And he was a former wrestler, right? Doing jiu-jitsu. And then he started doing, he's like, holy shit, I feel so calm.
Josh does breath holds on the fucking assault bike.
Yep. And he has his team do that. He has his team do that shit. Like, I at this point, like, when somebody comes in and says, oh, it's not that, it doesn't make that big of a difference, I can't help but just be like, sometimes you say this and I'm just like, fuck, shit. But you don't know what I know. And and it's not even saying that in a cocky manner. It's just, you haven't applied it. You just don't know yet. And it's not even worth having this conversation, because you're going to discount it because we're saying it's anecdotal.
And you're like, and I'm going to kill you and not even break a sweat. There's no reason for me to brag about it or talk about it, but I'm going to kill you. You're going to die. And I'm not even going to get sweaty from it.
And you might even like it.
but that's why it's like, I just think that the strength in when we bring these people on is just applying. I know there are so many people that, like, even when I saw Goda stuff, there is this inkling where I was just like, what the fuck? To some of it.
It looks so different.
It does. But I applied some of it, and I listened to their rationale, and I could understand where they're coming from. But we still got some people, like, I love my boy, but Zach Tillander is very anti-Goda currently. I can understand why and where he comes from as far as his background. But there are some things that just be open to some of the ideas they're putting forward. It doesn't need to be everything, but there are certain aspects of what Goda is doing where I get it and I get where that's beneficial. You know, same thing with Joel Seedman, because a lot of people like to shit on Joel Seedman, but there is a lot of good in what he's putting forward. You might not believe it all, but be open enough to just kind of try to take some of what he's saying and see how it could be beneficial for you or for other sport athletes, you know? So
it can sometimes be difficult because there's a lot of different, you know, personalities on the internet, and there's people that say really negative, harmful stuff about other people. And you're just like, but then still doesn't mean that you can't learn something from that person. It doesn't mean that there's not good information resting within that.
yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, you know, anyone with a negative vibe, just like, don't follow them, don't watch their stuff. But the other side of me is like, it's just another side, you know? I don't like the way that people act sometimes, but my suggestion is to not allow the way someone acts to block you from learning, because there's still a lot to learn there. And if you don't find any value in the person and you just think that they're negative, then choose to probably unfollow them would be a great idea. But if there's something that they say every once in a while, you're like, I just think there's something I can take from that. It's kind of nice to be able to take those things and utilize those things.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, a lot of you guys are lifters, athletes. You're serious about the gym, and we are too. And that's why we've been using Slingshot products for years, all right? You have the original Slingshot, obviously the glittery pink hip circle, which is my personal favorite. But if you don't like that, then you have the normal hip circle that's used to warm up the hips. But on the website, they have tons of equipment, knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, the gangster wraps right there. So you need to go check them out. And Andrew, can you tell them more about it?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
You know what? I think this, maybe you're thinking of the text thread I sent you the other day. I won't say specifically what he said, but you know, Naudi Aguilar. I've messaged him before in the past, asking him questions about something because he was really.
I'd still love to have him on the show.
He was really drilling Ben Patrick, so I was curious on why he thought like a lot of that stuff was dangerous long term.
He talks about people that we've been friends with for a long time, people that we've learned a lot about, and it can be frustrating.
Yeah, because
he talks about them in a negative context.
Yeah, he said something about somebody we know in a post, and he referenced an injury they had. I'm just like, dude, like Nadi's doing a lot of cool stuff with functional patterns. That is true. And, you know, like you said, just because someone might just act like an asshole, they still might have really good information. And it's that it like, I pay attention to his stuff. But there's the other side who's like, why you gotta be so mean, dog? Like, well, like, but I think I understand why he feels that he needs to be so mean, because maybe he's just been trying to drill certain things in people's heads and they haven't been listening. So
maybe they've been mean to him.
Maybe
so
they've been mean to
justified in some way,
right?
But it doesn't make anybody. It's just ugly.
It's ugly,
you know. So if you find the only advice I have on something like that, if you find yourself feeling the need to rip apart other people, I think there's a lot of. I would just strongly suggest that you do your best to not do that. Just put forward what you like and what you believe. You can, however, say, hey, I've tried some of this other guy has this stuff that he does. I tried that for a few years. I didn't like it. It didn't work great for me. And then I started trying some of this other stuff and I found that to be beneficial. Maybe you guys will find it to be the same way. But you can't control the way that people act and the way that people are. And there's no reason to, again, just block that to have it block you from learning. It could be, there could be some things that are really valuable that you can learn from somebody.
Absolutely. And he has a lot of valuable stuff. It's true. Some people, but you know, that's the thing though. Some people are automatically turned off because of he's just kind of mean. Like, and it's unfortunate for them because they won't be able to like maybe glean some concepts that might be very useful for themselves and people they work with. But he's got a lot of cool stuff over there at FP.
He said some stuff about like nutrition where he said something to the effect of like, this is just so dumb to even talk about. He's like, you basically just eat natural foods and you're good. And you're like, that's actually pretty valuable.
Yeah, actually, it's extremely.
Yeah, eat meat, vegetables, and fruit, some potatoes, some rice, and kind of stick within that. Eat X amount of protein per day, a gram, per pound of body weight-ish. that's super valuable information. But that's like his dissertation on nutrition. And it could be more nuanced than that. I know that it kind of also isn't.
Yeah.
Because like that's kind of the end of the conversation. And I agree with him there. But I think ultimately what we're trying to do on this show, and what I think a lot of people are trying to do, I think Nowdy's doing the same thing. I think a lot of people are, you're trying to get people to listen to you. You're trying to get people to actually listen and to take into consideration the information that you're putting forward. Mm. So if I do that by yelling, if I do that by saying, this is the fucking best thing, if I do that with a lot of wasteful words, and that's the most I got from that Jordan Peterson clip, because when I watch somebody start to explain something, they start to walk you through the 3 things that you need to do to be healthier or stronger or whatever it might be on Instagram, I will notice a lot of words being said that aren't moving anything forward. I'll have to find examples that we can put in other podcasts, but people will just talk about something being awesome or something being really good or being good for you. And to me, that's not strong enough explanatory knowledge. You know, we've talked before on this podcast of being able to go a couple questions deep. So a real example of that would be if Nsima is showing me some jujitsu, I would say, well, why wouldn't I do this? And he'd go, because this is going to happen. And I go, oh, that didn't seem good. Well, why can't I do this? I think you mentioned it earlier, Andrew, the kind of dumb white belt, like,
dumb
hey,
white
what
belt
if someone
question.
does this? You know, and he can give me really good examples, not just through talking, but physically, where I'm like, oh, all those ideas were really bad. He showed me very quickly on why they weren't effective. Sometimes things aren't, you know, that black and white, but I think those are good ways of viewing things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just thinking about when I seen some of the FP stuff, I thought it was so stupid. You know, and this is after I'm learning about like what's biomechanically like good for muscle building. And then I see him or maybe someone else rolling on the ground with a cable machine, and then they like do a press or something. And I'm like, that's so dumb. But then now fast forward to today and I'm like, damn, I want that bar because I have some ideas that I want to do with it. You know, I don't know what it's called, but the one that Naughty sells.
A Parabar or
something like that. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I want to hook that up to a cable machine because, oh my gosh, that's going to be so useful for jiu-jitsu. Because in that moment, I was like, how can I build the most muscle possible? Now I'm like, how can I perform better on the mats? So, you know, I was being very close-minded at that time. Yeah. And then you learn a little bit and you're like, damn, that's actually pretty sick.
But this is one thing here. You see, like, to be open enough to like pay attention to things that he's doing, it's good because he's doing a lot of good stuff. But when you pay attention to people who are doing that, it is almost becomes like this is the only way for them. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's cool. If you believe that what you're doing is the most ideal, best way, that is your belief. But I think it's also dangerous to find something and be like, oh yeah, this is the best. Because that is almost limiting and allowing you to find more answers elsewhere. That's the thing that we're always doing. We are always finding new answers for us to build and get better. But then if we land on something, we're like, this is the only way. Then you're not getting better. You're only getting better within this one system. It stagnates you. It stalls you. That's how I felt when I was like just only focused on bodybuilding years ago, and I was only focused on counting macros. And I was like, I figured this out. It's so simple. There's nothing else that needs to be done. You don't want to end up there.
There's so many people that we see that are kind of like just maybe too tangled up in their beliefs. And we could be part of that. Like, I'm willing to admit I could still be too tangled up in my beliefs to see that there's other great ideas, suggestions. There's other great things out there that could, you know, maybe help me even better. But I do my best. I feel like I do my best to try to be as open-minded as I can. And it's been transformative to me. I think it's been transformative to you. And to you as well, Andrew. So I'd love for everybody to just give that a try. You know, give what Jordan Peterson mentioned in this clip. Give it a try. See if you can get the ands and ums and the likes. See if you can start to enhance your speech. And ultimately, you know, I've always been talking about like getting stronger or getting bigger, getting in better shape, these things. They're all just forms of personal development. It's all just a personal development rabbit hole. And that's really, I think, something I've been excited about and something I like to share with other people, it doesn't really have anything to do with I'm trying to get you to wake up at 4 a.m. It's more like, with my children, it's very similar. I'm just trying to see if I can introduce or suggest something to them that gives them a big spark. And then can I help kind of fan that spark like you would if you're trying to like build a fire, trying to get some oxygen to it, right? So it can turn into this kind of smoldering flame. Because I would love to see everybody be able to have that flame of passion, be able to have that thing that gets them up in the morning. Even though I ran 16 miles yesterday, when I woke up today, I'm like, fuck yeah, it's another day to go get it. It's another day to get better. Like, let's go figure out how to get better for today. And I went out there and ran more. So I think it's been really beneficial to me, and maybe you guys will find it beneficial. Andrew, take us on out of here, buddy.
Sure thing. For everything podcast related, head over to powerproject.live. Before I forget, this morning, same thing. I was so fired up to go to Waza to go do jiu-jitsu this morning. Go do jiu-jitsu. Go practice jiu-jitsu. I was up at 3 a.m., like sitting there just like, what do I do? Like, I'm
With
gonna go,
morning wood?
Yeah. So I was like, well, I guess I could do that.
Make up Stephanie.
Yeah. No, there's a child in the way.
And a dog.
Nope. Dogs are caged up now. I couldn't take it anymore. I'm like, they're peeing all over the carpet. I'm like, we need to do something. Yeah, they're old. They're old as fuck.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like they can't control it anymore. So I'm like, we got to do something. I was like, let's just put them in the kitchen where, like, if they go to the bathroom, they can go on something like easy to clean. Now we have like those potty pads all over the place. But
poor little guys.
What I was getting at was I was so fired up to go to jiu-jitsu, and it didn't even matter what time the alarm clock was supposed to go off or the alarm bed. I was up at 3, and then I was up at 3:30, and I'm like, fuck, I'm getting up. And I couldn't wait to go. It's an amazing feeling. So everybody needs to find that and
wake up first thing in the morning and fight.
Yeah.
It's fun, man.
That's pretty dope.
Go fight in fancy robes.
It's like, how you doing today? Fuck you. Go ahead, throw a punch at me. I fucking dare you. I'm going to kill you. You're half asleep.
So good.
Got your little jammies on.
How you doing? Fuck you. Let's go. Okay.
Oh, man.
But thank you, everybody, for checking out this episode. Drop those comments down below. Let us know what you guys think about this conversation. Hit that like button and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. Again, powerproject.live for everything podcast related. But follow the podcast at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where are you at?
At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. At Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Discord is down below. Check it out. Mark, what's your smelly tip, man?
Owen, can you make an edit from this part right here? And I just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Peterson, for being on the show today. I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming. Nsima is really pumped about Andrew. Everyone here at Super Training Gym. So thank you, Mr. Peterson. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
I've been a fan for forever. I've read 12 Rules and Beyond Order, and I've gone through self-authoring. So
yeah,
I'm going through self-authoring again.
I'm not sure if you've done a lot of podcasts, but that was really well done. If you've done much public speaking in the past, but you did a great job. You killed it today, Mr. Peterson. Thank you. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Catch you guys later. Bye.